Welcome back to Xbox Corner, my name's Luke, and today on the channel we're going to be checking out Circa Infinity, and a shout out to Red Deer Games for sponsoring this video. They asked us to tell you all about their latest console release, and let me tell you now, this one's a trippy one. With that said then, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date with all our latest deals, reviews and Game Pass videos, and let's get started. So I'll start by saying that we're going to be skipping the story on this one, because to be quite honest, it doesn't really have one. Circa Infinity is a puzzle platformer which focuses entirely on the gameplay, and while you may be tempted to read into things a little deeper after spending about an hour being hypnotised by its concentric circles, I recommend you just enjoy the trip, and the gameplay of course. Now controls wise, Circa Infinity is about as simple as they come. You move left and right with the D-pad and perform jumps with the A button, and gameplay itself is incredibly intuitive. The basic premise is this. You run either clockwise or anti-clockwise around the outside of a circle. After arriving at the smaller cutout section of it, you can then jump to enter the inner side of the circle, and then all you have to do is make another jump to reach the smaller circle floating around in the centre. Doing so will then take you to the outside of that circle, and then you just rinse and repeat until you reach and jump into the final circle to complete the level. Sounds easy, doesn't it? Well, it is, at least for the first few levels, but new enemies are slowly introduced, each presenting their own unique challenge, and actually getting to that centre circle becomes more and more difficult, as coming into contact with an enemy will send you back to the previous circle. Now as you get further into the game, you'll begin to encounter different enemy combinations, making each circle feel like its own individual puzzle to solve, and the real challenge comes from keeping track of all these different enemies and planning and executing your moves accordingly. The game is comprised of 5 chapters, each with 10 levels, and upon reaching level 10, I was expecting just to move on to the next set of levels, but rather surprisingly, at the end of each chapter you actually face off against a boss. Each of these have their own unique movement patterns to contend with and methods of defeating them, and I thought this was a really interesting way to end levels, as these boss encounters kind of act to consolidate everything that you've learned throughout the previous 10 levels. Now, those of you that know me from my other channel, Star or Shovelware, know that I've got a pretty short fuse when it comes to rage-inducing titles, and while Circa Infinity does become pretty challenging, I never found that it became unfair, and this is because, like everything, enemy movement patterns are kept simple, allowing you to easily understand how each of them moves and what you need to do to avoid them. When you screw up, you may end up getting knocked back a few circles, but unlike in other games where a single wrong move means starting over, in this game you always know that you only need to make a couple of precise jumps to get back to where you were, and that victory lies only a few jumps ahead. There are also rest points situated throughout levels which contain no enemies, providing you with a kind of checkpoint system, and I found that these kind of alleviated a lot of the frustration that I usually feel with these titles and gave it more of an addictive one more try feeling rather than making me want to smash my controller into tiny pieces. Now visually, Circa Infinity very much reminded me of a classic Atari game with its blocky looking sprites and simple colour palette, but I love the unique way in which the visuals have been implemented into gameplay, and it was no doubt the intent of the developer to have a kind of hypnotic quality to them. As you get further into the levels and you have enemies moving around in all of the different surrounding circles, they can really begin to mess with your head a little, and on several occasions I even got confused about which way I should have been running, and this is just another way in which the game becomes more challenging. Now the music in Circa Infinity was also another standout point about the game for me, with its pulse-pounding electronica soundtrack containing a mixture of chiptune and 80s synthwave tracks, which just so happen to be two of my favourite genres. The tracks sound pretty awesome, especially when playing with headphones on, and they have a kind of rhythmatic quality to them which really complemented the visuals. So overall, I have to say that I went into Circa Infinity not really expecting much from the game, but I actually came away pleasantly surprised by how unique and addictive its gameplay was. The difficulty curve of the game is pretty reasonable, giving you a chance to understand the mechanics of each enemy before throwing a challenge at you, and I found it to be one of those kind of easy to pick up but hard to master games, which I have no doubt that fans of games like Super Meat Boy or N++ will enjoy, but I also feel that its simplicity makes it accessible to the non-veterans amongst us. If you're looking for something new to play on the run up to Christmas, then Circa Infinity definitely offers an interesting puzzle platforming experience, and you can currently pick it up off the Xbox Marketplace with a 20% discount. And so that about wraps up this Xbox sale highlight of Circa Infinity. Hopefully you all found it useful and you now know what to expect from the game if you were considering buying it. As always, hit that like button if you enjoyed it, subscribe to stay up to date with our latest deals, reviews and Game Pass videos, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks everyone, take care.